In today's interview environment, the most successful job candidates are master storytellers. They're also great at anticipating interview questions ahead of time, and they also ask great questions at the end of the interview. Unfortunately, the only people who are usually privy to these proven techniques are those fortunate enough to afford expensive interview coaches or interview prep services. My name is Mark Williamson, and I'm the head of talent acquisition for a leading U.S. company. In this episode, I'll serve as your expensive interview coach, without the expense, of course, as I teach you how to answer the 9 most frequently asked interview questions. I help frustrated job seekers successfully navigate the job search and interview process. As I said, I'll be sharing the 9 most frequently asked interview questions and providing quick guidance/answers to each question. Now, I know you might be asking, why 9 questions? Why not 50 or 100 questions? Well, there are many books and publications written on the subject of answering interview questions, and having written a book myself, I know that literary agents, the men and women who represent writers in book deals, they insist on books being 250 plus pages long before they'll even consider shopping them to publishers. So when you see books and interview guides that say the 300 most popular interview questions or 167 job interview questions every candidate should know how to answer, don't fall for it. These guides are full of fluff because the author was forced to put out a book of a certain length. Think about it. Is anyone really going to ask you, if you were a dog, what kind of dog would you be? Highly unlikely. So don't waste your time with the 167 question nonsense. But what I have discovered is that for the most part, every company uses a variation of the same 25 interview questions when interviewing job candidates. And having led recruiting for 2 companies and having held recruiting leadership roles at several others, my experience has shown that there is only enough time to ask 4 to 6 interview questions in a given 45-minute to 1-hour interview. Furthermore, additional research shows that there are 9 questions that appear in over 85% of job interviews. So while you should definitely eventually learn how to answer the other 16 questions from that 25 question list, knowing how to answer the 9 questions I cover in this episode will likely have you uber prepared. One note before we jump into the questions. As you get deeper and deeper into the interview process, you will likely be asked interview questions that are either more technical in nature or that are more subject matter specific, depending on the position you're interviewing for. And it would be impossible for me or any other interview coach or book to provide answers to those questions because we're not experts in those subjects. So at some point, you will need to lean on your professional knowledge, background, and experience to come up with answers to those interview questions. You are more likely to face these 9 questions early on in the process during the recruiter and hiring manager interview stages. Now, here's the key to success when it comes to answering these 9 interview questions. Serious job seekers should take the time to write out answers to each of these 9 questions and then practice delivering those answers out loud until all the answers roll off the tongue, like the lyrics to your favorite song. Once you do this, you'll be ultra confident and super prepared to speak professionally about your background and experience in your next job interview. So let's get into it. The 9th most frequently asked interview question is, what's your leadership style? The key to answering this question is first understanding the generally accepted styles of leadership that exist. They are laissez-faire, autocratic, and participative. These are the 3 generally accepted leadership styles. So first, let's discuss the laissez-faire leadership style. This style is largely a hands-off view that tends to minimize the amount of direction and face time required on the leader's part. This leadership method works well if you have very senior, highly trained, and highly motivated direct reports. This leadership style could apply to the CEO or senior leadership team member of a company. The next leadership style is autocratic. Autocratic leadership is where one person has all the power and forces everyone else to follow his or her orders. This is an aggressive or bossy way of ordering others around. This style has its advocates, but it's falling out of favor in many countries. Some people have argued that this style is popular with CEOs who like to micromanage. The final style of leadership that we'll discuss is the participative leadership style. This style represents a happy medium between over-controlling or micromanaging and not being engaged, and tends to be seen in organizations that must innovate to prosper. Participative leaders ensure that their subordinates understand who's in charge, yet they welcome input and ideas from their people and integrate them into the business when appropriate. Participative leaders usually have the pulse of their organization because people are more comfortable communicating with this type of individual. Hint, unless you're interviewing for a C-level or C-level -1 position, if you want the job, say that you're a participative leader. The 8th most frequently asked interview question is, how do you deal with conflict? This question may also be asked, tell me about a time when you almost lost your cool when dealing with a customer or coworker, or tell me about a time when you had to deal with a difficult person. When you're answering this question, describe a time when you were confronted with a dicey situation involving a manager, coworker, or a customer, and how you managed through it. Ensure that your answer shows that you were calm and under control in dealing with the situation, and that you took a professional approach to resolving the issue. The 7th most frequently asked interview question is, what are your salary expectations? Now, with the introduction of the new wage laws, companies are no longer allowed to ask you how much you currently make or how much you made in your former positions. However, they can ask you about your salary expectations. I recommend redirecting this question back to the recruiter who asked it by asking him or her to share the targeted salary for the position. If you can't avoid providing a number, just say that you're looking to be paid in line with market rates for the position, adjusted for the cost of living index for the part of the country that you live in. The 6th most frequently asked interview question is, what's your greatest strength? The answer to this question should change depending on the position you're interviewing for. If you're interviewing to be a manager or a supervisor, your strength should be something like, I'm a great motivator or I'm a great leader. If you're interviewing to be a sales professional, your strength should be that you're great at building relationships, great at persuasion, or that you're a great listener. If you're interviewing to be an engineer, your strength should be that you're great at design and technical project management. If you're interviewing for a finance position, your strength should be that you are very advanced in Microsoft Excel, or that you're a numbers whiz, etc. A great generic but powerful answer to this question is, my greatest strength is that I have great follow-up skills. Follow-up skills are very important in almost any job or position. This is a great choice if you're having difficulty coming up with what to use for your greatest strength. I hope you're finding value in this episode. But I know most of you are here because you have an upcoming job interview in the coming days or weeks. Heck, some of you might even have a job interview tomorrow. Whatever the case may be, I wanted to take a brief moment to let you know about a resource I've put together for those of you wanting to put some time and focus into ensuring that you're fully prepared for that upcoming interview. Successfully landing a job, especially a high-paying one, is not just about interviewing. Rather, it's the culmination of several key activities throughout the interview process. So I've created an all-encompassing but highly digestible interview training course to teach you the 10 things you can do to ensure you make the right moves throughout the interview process so you can stand out from the competition and land the job. Whether you've got 2 full weeks or less than 24 hours to prepare for your next interview, my interview training course will teach you the 3 essential components of interview prep, how to answer the 25 most frequently asked interview questions, 10 questions designed to weed out unprepared job candidates, how to frame your interview answers for maximum impact, how to think on your feet when you're asked a question you're not prepared for, the proper way to follow up after the interview so that you remain memorable in a sea of job candidates, plus several additional game-changing tactics to ensure that you beat out the competition and land that next job. The course is downloadable, so you can have access to it within seconds, and you can complete the training course in less than 1 hour. But trust me when I tell you, you'll be armed with insider interviewing strategies that will last you a lifetime. Details for how to get your copy of Prepare for the Job Interview in 24 hours or less can be found in the description or show notes below. Now back to the episode. The 5th most frequently asked interview question is, tell me about a time when you failed. Do not answer this question by saying, I've never failed. Instead, discuss a time when something you worked on professionally, either individually or as part of a team, did not turn out as planned. Tread lightly with this answer, however. Your failure should not illustrate that you were incompetent or that you did a poor job. Choose a mild failure if possible, preferably one where there were mitigating circumstances that could not be avoided. Be sure to mention what you learned from the failure. The 4th most frequently asked interview question is, what's your greatest weakness? Never answer this question by saying, I don't have any weaknesses. Recruiters and hiring managers hate this answer and will undoubtedly say that you're either arrogant or naive, since everyone has a weakness, even if they don't know it. However, be careful when answering this question. Never give an answer like, my greatest weakness is that I'm disorganized, or I don't have very much experience. Unless the position totally depends on it, like a finance role, a great answer to this question, which can be used by most job candidates, is something like, my greatest weakness is that I don't have an advanced knowledge of Microsoft Excel. I am comfortable working with Excel, but I'm working to understand the more advanced features and functionalities, such as learning all of the shortcuts, or how to record macros, or how to create pivot tables. If this answer is inappropriate for your situation, you should take the time to think of a weakness that will not rule you out for the position. The 3rd most frequently asked interview question is, tell me about your greatest accomplishment. This question may be disguised as, tell me about the biggest project, deal, sales win, or event you've ever led or managed. This question should take between 3 to 5 minutes to answer. The interviewer will determine whether or not you've done anything substantial, and if so, were you able to manage through obstacles to achieve success? The 2nd most frequently asked interview question is, do you have any questions? Always have at least 3 questions prepared. Plan on asking at least 2 of them. The 3rd question should be a backup in case you forget one of your 2 primary questions. Formulate your answers based on what you uncovered while researching the company, either from the news articles you read, the information you found on Google, or the information you found on Yahoo Finance or other similar sites. And the award for the number 1 most frequently asked interview question is, tell me about yourself. Now, given the popularity of this question, I have 2 episodes dedicated to how to answer the tell me about yourself question. One episode is for recent college graduates with less than 2 years of experience interviewing for their first professional positions. And the other episode is for experienced professionals. So I've provided links to both episodes below. where I provide detailed information about how to answer each question, and I provide real-life example answers where I answer this question as if I were being interviewed. So I encourage you to check out the episode that applies to you if you really want to slay this question. You've got to just learn how to interview.